queer fam, and welcome to Hey Adora, your queer Shira podcast. I'm Princess Jenny, she, her, and with me today is a special guest host, Holy Rainbow Pegacorn. Who could it be?
Hi everyone, it's producer Ashley, she, her.
Hey Ashley.
Hey Jenny.
So we are sorry that we have left all of our wonderful peeps wanting more for a bit longer than we planned. We needed a hiatus. We were hoping it would be a bit shorter, but, life happens. We had some gay adulting to do. Meph will also be back very soon. The full Super Pal Trio team will be here to service all your gay screaming needs. This week, in honor of Catradora month, which it now is, we are doing a Best of Catradora bonus ep.
Yeah, we are.
Can you believe? First of all, can you believe it's only been a year? / can you believe it's been a full year since the queer kiss that saved the universe?
I know. What a weird year. It's like
yeah,
the longest and the shortest all at the same time.
Yeah, it's the weirdest year, probably the weirdest year of my life.
Yeah, definitely for me.
Catradora saw us through one of the worst years of the 21st century, certainly.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into that. So, obviously, a Best of Catradora episode could take hours and hours and hours, and we don't have that kind of time. So, we are going to, we're going to obviously go through the big touch points and, as Meph would say, the overall flow of the main narrative that is their character development together and as individuals, which, their development as a togetherness can't happen without them growing as individuals. That's why our list of episodes that we are discussing today, it's like a third of season 1. And then nothing until season 3, 2 episodes at the end of season 3, I'm sure you know, and then fully half of season 5. A little more than half of season 5.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's where did they start? They had to go on their separate journeys. They had to check in, be like, are you still fucked up? Yeah. Are you still fucked up? Oh, yeah.
I'm more fucked up now than I was before.
Yeah. We don't know what the fuck is going on. We're still gay and confused.
Yes.
Not confused about being gay, just confused about life. And then, that sweet, sweet season 5 comes in to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you guys want to know, since we're not doing a traditional episodic episode, I am just going to let you know all of the eps that we're going to discuss today. Hope we have time to get through all of them. I think we will. We are going to discuss Season 1, Episode 1, The Sword Part 1, written by Noelle Stevenson. 102, The Sword Part 2, written by Noelle Stevenson. 108, Princess Prom!
Woo!
Written by head writer Josie Campbell. Episode 111, Promise, written by Noelle Stevenson. Episode 305, Remember, also written by Noelle Stevenson. You can see it's a pattern. A lot of the heavy-hitting Catradora episodes are written by Noelle, but not all of them. 305 and 306 are back-to-back. Episode 306 is The Portal, written by Josie Campbell. And then we skip straight from the middle directly to Season 5. We're not discussing anything in Season 2 or Season 4. We jump straight to Season 5 with Corridors, written by Catherine Nolfi. Episode 5x5, Thank You, Faith. You all know the one.
Save the cat.
The
Save
fucking
the cat.
Written again by Noelle Stevenson. Thank you, Noelle, for saving all of us along with the cat. 506, Taking Control, written by Laura Sreebney. 508, Shot in the Dark, written by Catherine Nolfi. 511, Failsafe, written by Catherine Nolfi. 512, Heart Part 1, written by Josie Campbell. 513, Heart Part 2, written by Noelle Stevenson. So we begin and end with our awesome, genderqueer, epic leader. I don't want to call Noelle Jesus anymore because, I don't even know that much about Jesus besides, he started out Jewish. So, I don't know what a good moniker for Noelle is anymore.
All around badass.
All around badass, sovereign of us.
Yes.
If you guys have ideas about what our new badass official title for Noelle could be, why don't you hit us up?
Yeah.
Twitter. You guys know all the places you can find us. TikTok, Insta. Send us an email. We are open to all your sassy ideas. So those are all the episodes we hope to get through right now. And so before we get into the individual episodes, I just wanted to start with a very brief, because if I get too deep in this, we'll never get through it all. A very brief, macro view of, this whole journey. Because on the whole, I think it's very relatable.
Yeah.
They start out as childhood/lifelong BFFs who really, they both want more, but obviously you don't have the words and the language for that when you're a child. And then when you start to grow towards adulthood, it's not like automatically one day you're just like, oh yeah, we're gay for each other. Let's transition now to being girlfriends.
Right.
Has anyone ever had that conversation?
No.
I don't think so.
It just slowly creeps up on you over the years.
Yes. And on top of that, they were both horribly abused. Right. And their abuse was all in witness of each other and wrapped up together. But it was different for both of them.
Yeah.
And so they both have to sort out all that shit. And that's not even aside from the fact that they both have these separate journeys they have to go on. They don't want the exact same things. They can't always stick together when they're literally going in two different directions.
Yep.
But I think it's good that they're going in two different directions because they really got to work out their shit as individuals on their own.
Yeah, I mean, the season 5 we got wouldn't have happened if they hadn't taken their time apart from each other.
They both have to become whole people.
Yep.
So they can, not be codependent gays.
Right.
So they go on those separate journeys, and then we have a little touch point right smack in the middle, the end of season 3 with Remember and the Portal. And that's, they get really deep down in the weeds of going back and confronting their childhood shit together, facing up to shit that is really, really brutal. But they have to face up to it before they can even begin to work through it. And that's something that they have to do as individuals and together and reflect on what each other's experiences were.
Yeah.
And then we slide on in towards the beginning of season 5 is when Catra finally has her real shifting point at the beginning of season 5 in Corridors, where she finally has to make a real decision about what she wants for herself and for the whole world, the whole universe. And once she makes that choice, everything after that is sort of sliding into new territory and being more intentional in their relationship rather than just being reactionary in all the automatic ways that they've been in their whole lives, because that's what served them and protected them from their childhood abuse.
Right.
But as any well-adjusted adult gay will probably tell you, what served you as a child that kept you safe will not necessarily serve you for the rest of your life when you finally get to the point where you don't have to rely on survival skills anymore. But that's all you know how to do.
What a journey.
Yeah. If you want to thrive, you got to learn to move past your survival instincts. And that is no easy feat. It might even take 5 seasons of your life. So, do you want to start talking about in the beginning? In the beginning, there was Catradora.
Yeah.
And it was good.
It gets better, but it was good.
Yeah, it could be better. We've got the sword, the double pilot. So this is establishing their origin story and the relationship that they've fallen into. So, this is the point where they're in it, but they've never reflected on it. Like the expression, a fish can't see its own water.
Right.
They couldn't necessarily describe to another person or to each other or to themselves what is the nature of their relationship in a truthful way. But they know they want it and they know that it's fundamentally good. But of course, there's issues.
Right.
And they don't even have the capability at this point to really reflect on them with any objectivity.
Yeah.
So what are the issues they need to confront? Adora needs to stop trying to constantly shield Catra from the consequences of her own actions, and also thereby unintentionally taking away Catra's agency constantly. Unintentionally.
Yeah.
But, she can't constantly shield Catra from her own choices. Otherwise, Catra is never going to learn to stand on her own 2 feet and what she wants to stay and do for herself.
Right. We know as viewers rewatching that Shadow Weaver fucked up their psyches and has puppeteered their relationship.
Oh, yeah. She's tried.
Yeah. Adora being that way with Catra is because of Shadow Weaver's treatment.
Absolutely. There's a horrible, horrible scene from the middle episodes that we get to see that shows us some of the original abuse that has put them in the roles that they play.
Right.
You know, if I were in Adora's shoes watching my best friend / the person I love most in the world being horribly abused in front of my eyes, and they're 6 years old in that story.
Right.
And we know that because in another episode that we didn't even watch in the future, Octavia says to someone that Catra scratched her eye out when she was 6. And then in these flashbacks, it had just happened.
Right.
So that means they were only 6 years old watching this. What kind of agency does a 6-year-old have to actually make an adult stop doing what they're doing?
Right.
Especially an adult who is like a fully fledged sorcerer.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring it up to preface all these issues we're about to get into.
Oh, yes. I absolutely understand. I understand both their points of view so much that it's heartbreaking. And I think that's what the writers want. You know, like, you can't fault either of them for anything they've had to do to survive, to protect themselves, to protect each other. And you know that their feelings for each other are real, but, you know, a lot of the stuff they've been through has just gotten in the way. Right. So absolutely no judgment. Also, P.S. absolutely none of us are therapists.
Right.
We have no special credentials here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we both have different backgrounds that inform this dialogue. But nobody's saying that we're in charge of the feels.
Right.
And that we know all the answers about the feels, because who can say that? Oh, and there is one great line, and I mean, there is a million great lines from the first 2 eps, but, you know, this one really foreshadowing line that Catra says as they're off joyriding into the Whispering Woods on the borrowed skiff, when Adora just wanted to cheer up her girl because she was sad she couldn't blow anything up.
Yeah.
You know, they're going off all willy-nilly because Catra is a gay that does not know how to drive. And Adora makes some remark about how, like, whoa, you know, if you keep going this fast, like, we're not going to have enough gas to get back. And Catra says, do you remember what Catra says?
That's a problem for future Adora and Catra.
Correct. And damn well right it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she can't think beyond the present moment. They're just going in. That foreshadows the entire series in terms of their relationship. They have to move forward regardless of the fact that they don't know how they're going to get through to the other side. And that's how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's tons of foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
In the pilot. But that's just, you know.
It's a big one, though.
It's a big one. It's a big one. If we're going to be able to get through all this shit, we have to. It's a best of. It's not a comprehensive. It's a best of. So unless you have anything else to say about the pilots part 1 and 2, I would like to move on to Princess Prom.
Let's go to Prom.
Okay, so my only note on Princess Prom, and it's all caps, is just a hot gay mess of angry flirting and dance floor scissoring and staring into each other's eyes so long you fall off a cliff. Thank you, lesbian Jesus.
That's an amazing note.
Thank you.
If you're gonna only have one note, that's an amazing one to have.
I feel like that could be just like a poem, like a standalone poem.
Yeah, for sure.
The Princess Prom ode, perhaps. Yeah. And then I had a subnote to that note. If there was a lesbian Jesus, you can bet that bad bitch would not be sacrificing herself to save the queers. She'd show up in a blaze of glory, wearing some light armor and brandishing a genderqueer sword in a blaze of light to save us. How about that?
Yeah.
That's the lesbian Jesus that I want. Lord knows we do not need any more self-sacrificing queers.
Very true. And I feel like Adora never truly gives up that, like, Catra will come to their side.
Oh, yeah.
But at some point, Catra does give up that Adora's going to come back to her side.
I agree with that. Absolutely, Adora never gives up on Catra. But there are some problematic things going on with the way she frames it to Catra, because I wish that she would say please more. She never says please. She always starts her sentences with you have to. Yeah. You have to listen to me. You have to XYZ or else you're going to fuck everything up again. Mm-hmm. She doesn't listen.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But like, you're right. Of course, she never gives up on Catra. But so in Princess Prom, as forestated, it's just a hot gay mess.
It is.
They're both just fully reacting to each other.
Yeah.
But they're both fully invested and they're just living in reaction to each other. Messy queer feels, dyke drama, the whole 9 yards. And especially, we all know that moment when Catra almost goes over the side. It's not even a cliff. It's like a giant floating mini island. It's ice. It's a giant floating iceberg.
Yeah.
It's not even that giant. It's like a small area.
Uh-huh.
And they're fighting on this. This is a high-stakes situation. And Catra overestimates, she's going to elbow Adora. Adora moves out of the way. And now Catra has sent herself over the edge. Adora grabs her by her tuxedoed waist.
Yeah.
And pulls her back. And they spend so long just staring into each other's eyes that they accidentally fall off a cliff. That's the there is no heterosexual explanation for this.
No, that's gay as fuck.
That's gay as fuck. So we all love it. But it doesn't have any forward momentum, but we all fucking love it.
Right, yeah. It's a great moment.
Yeah. So, and the next grouping of eps that we will talk about individually, but I see them as a group narratively, is what I think of as the middle eps, which is Promise, 111, Remember, 305, and The Portal, 306. Those are the middle eps where we see the most flashbacks and the most amount of them reckoning with their shared trauma and their shared memories.
Yeah.
Promise is the one where Adora goes to the Crystal Castle trying to learn from Lighthope.
And Catra follows
Lighthope,
her.
or maybe it's not even Lighthope yet. Maybe it's just like the generic hologram welcome lady. And she just tells Adora, you must let go. Adora has no idea what that means. And then Catra follows her in, and then Adora proceeds to spend the entire episode trying to save Catra from all the shit going on in the Crystal Castle that thinks she's an intruder. Even though Catra explicitly tells her several times, I'm not asking you to save me. Don't save me. I can take care of myself. Adora cannot stop herself from trying to save Catra. And so at the same time, they're in the Crystal Castle, which projects their memories. They have to watch their shared memories, and it's mostly shared trauma, but some of it isn't. And this episode is so good at showing us from both of their perspectives how it was.
Right, yeah.
How it was for both of them being in the Horde, how they were both treated differently, and what their trauma experiences were like. And before we get, there's a scene in this episode that I think is like, if you can ever say that one abuse situation, one trauma is like the root of all the trauma that comes after. It's like all the repetitive trauma that's like the same over and over and over. If you could think of like the original time, the most awful time is in this ep. But before we get to that, do you remember the scene where they are like 12 or 13 years old and they're sparring?
Yep.
And Catra cheats a little by pretending to be hurt. And then when Adora, because she knows Adora's going to be like, oh my God, are you okay? And drop her guard. And then so that's fighting dirty.
And then Lonnie steps in.
And then Lonnie steps in, 13-year-old Lonnie, looking quite heroic in that moment. Not even looking for credit, just being like, yo, that's not cool.
I was evening the playing field.
That's right. But we see the effect it has on Catra, that, she's triggered. She's clearly triggered when she feels ganged up on. She's no longer doing like a fun activity with her group. She is triggered and she feels totally unsafe.
Right, yeah.
But the point I was actually coming to is, do you remember that scene? Because did you remember to get a glimpse of Rogelio's hairdo as a 13-year-old?
No, but I noticed that he had his arm around Kyle.
Yes. Also a good thing to remember. Everybody, you gotta go back to episode 111 and just pause and appreciate 13-year-old Rogelio's hair, because it is dapper as fuck. Every 13-year-old lizard should aspire to that kind of smoothness. But then right after that is the scene that is one of the most difficult scenes to watch. And of course, we're going to slap a content warning before any of this. So people who don't want to listen, don't feel able to listen, it's totally fine. We understand. But the scene where they're playing, and Adora is the one who suggests that they go in the Black Garnet Chamber because they're 6 years old and all they know is we're not supposed to go in there. So let's go in there.
Yeah.
That's very innocent.
Of course, it's so much more intriguing when you can't go.
Yeah, of course. And this is a normal childhood behavior.
Yeah.
They are children. So they go in, they're poking around, and Shadow Weaver happens to come in at that time, and she's looking like she's rattled. Something just happened. She takes off her mask, and they make a little noise. Adora is also the one who makes the little noise.
Uh-huh. So not only was it her idea, but she is also the one who made the noise that got them caught.
Right.
And then Catra has to take the repercussions for it.
Mm-hmm. And that is really brutal to watch. Watching Catra as a 6-year-old being frozen.
Terrified.
And terrified. So, like, her pupils are shaking, which is a very good effect that cartoons can do. That is not real, but it really, you know, it's very visceral.
Yeah, and she's got a little sweat drop.
Mm-hmm. And the way Shadow Weaver speaks to her and tells her she's nothing. She practically tells her she's a dog. Mm-hmm. You know, she keeps her around like as a pet for Adora.
Yeah, and she better not get in her way.
Yes. And, you know, Adora tries to help. And again, I really see every side of this. Because on the one hand, what can a 6-year-old do to stop this? On the other hand, of course, there's part of you that feels like she could have reacted more strongly. She could have reacted faster to put herself between Catra and Shadow Weaver.
Right, but she's also 6.
She's also 6. She could have jumped up and down and screamed at Shadow Weaver. But, you know, obviously she's scared too. She's also only 6.
Right.
You know, there's no blame to be had. These are children.
It's a hard scene to get through.
It's a very hard scene to get through. But it shows us absolutely everything about the positions that they have been put in all of their lives and how molded into those positions they have become over time. Mm-hmm. And it's all so painful and so necessary for them to confront this stuff now.
Mm-hmm. The first sign of you knowing that it's going to be a hard scene to get through is when Catra clearly knows what's coming, and so does Adora, and she takes a step, and Adora says, "You don't have to go in there," but she does anyway.
Oh, that's right.
So she actively chooses to confront it at that time.
That's right. And then we end up, they walk out of that room, they have a fight that is mirrored and cut between the fight they are having now, you know, in real time. Mm-hmm. And it's so effective. Holy shit.
Yeah.
And it's so brutal and so necessary for them to have this fight, you know, because on the one hand, we've got Catra blaming Adora for not protecting her, not in any way that would put her on Shadow Weaver's bad side. And that's true.
Right.
She did try, but she could have tried harder. She never risked putting herself in a position that would make Shadow Weaver upset with her, really.
Right.
And that it's also true, you know, Adora now, in the present moment, is saying, you don't have to let her treat you like that anymore. You can leave. And then little Adora said, just like I did. And Catra says, oh, right, because I have to do everything you do and follow you around everywhere you go. You know, and it's like a can't-win situation where they both just have to try to make decisions on their own behalf and not try to think what the other person needs or wants or doesn't need or doesn't want. You know, they're adults now. They both have to try to make their own decisions.
Right.
And all of this is intercut with the Crystal Castle monsters coming after Catra and Adora determined to save her, even though Catra's telling her, fuck off, I don't need you to save me.
And it's pretty clear that, like, this is not something that they spent a lot of time discussing. It's just their natural instincts that they fell into without neither one of them gave each other any kind of feedback.
Oh yeah, they probably never gave each other any feedback.
Right. So this is like a huge moment for them.
Yeah, absolutely, because survival mechanisms and coping mechanisms that come out of trauma are not things that you discuss when you're in them. Right. You just need it to survive. You know, these are primal feelings, primal instincts. Yep. Things that have to do with survival are not methodically thought through. It's not in that part of your brain. Right. But it's necessary. And by the very end of the episode, Adora has no choice but to finally let go, as she was told at the beginning of the episode that she has to.
Yep. Ugh, it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. And there is a little parallel there, even though the situation is very different. Adora has to let go of Catra in order to become what she has to become. It's a parallel with Avatar. When Aang has to let go of Katara, who is the person he loves most, in order to open all his chakras so he can go into the Avatar state. Nice. Yeah, I know that's a show you don't really know.
I don't know it well, but I appreciate a good parallel.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a archetypal thing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like these two shows made up this idea that you have to let go of attachments in order to become a whole person and fulfill your own self. They're fighting so hard to hold on to the people they love, but the truth is they can't help the people they love or anyone if they can't let go and become a full person on their own. Right. Put your own oxygen mask on first. It's the hard truth. Mm-hmm. And that's literally the last Catradora-centric episode until the end of season 3.
It's so crazy that it's that long of a break.
I mean, considering that season 2 and season 3 together make one season, but still, it's basically like skipping over one full season and having just the last 2 eps, and then skipping over another entire season, picking up near the beginning of the next season. So that was our, you know, this is our touchstone between the beginning and the end. And they have to process so much separately in all that other space that we're skipping over. They're processing individually, which is necessary and healthy.
Oh, absolutely.
But if they want to go on together, which we know they do, especially Adora, I mean, both of them, they can never give up on each other. They can never let go of each other. Catra tries to spin it to the outside world and to herself also, that she is just so obsessed with getting rid of Adora, because Adora's her enemy. But she is still totally focused on Adora. Mm-hmm. And of course, in the end, when it comes down to it, she's not going to let Adora die. Right. But we had to get there. We had to go through all that fire and brimstone to even begin to get there.
All of their fight scenes, and every time that they go at it, I'm just like, they could never kill each other.
No, of course not. I mean, what kind of show would that be? Yeah. So we're going to touch down briefly at the end of season 3 with Remember and the Portal. And of course, Remember is a super fun ep, right? We get a lot of Scorpia, which is fantastic. Who could not love Scorpia? That's not what we're here to talk about, but I can't help it.
Unfortunately, there are people out there, I have learned, that do not like Scorpia. Yes.
Really? I mean, why? Why?
I don't know.
God damn. If you get us out of this, I will not hate you. I will just dislike you a reasonable amount. It's the most, you know, like, she doesn't hate anybody. Yeah. God bless Scorpia. Right. But, you know, of course, it's wonderful seeing Adora and Catra in their ideal fantasy life together.
Right, exactly.
And many, many, many people, of course, enjoy the Horde Queen fantasy.
Oh, yes.
We know this.
Including meth.
Oh, yes, absolutely. First and foremost. So that's fun, but also, you know, the thing that pulls Adora back to reality isn't anything about Catra. In fact, throughout Remember, she's still trying to save Catra from this crumbling reality. So it has nothing to do with Catra, what's pulling her back to the real world. It's about the greater world, her external journey that she's been on, putting the greater good above her own wants and needs. So that part isn't really about them as much as the next episode is about them with the portal. And that's when, you know, by the end of the portal, Adora finally really has to let go intentionally. You know, at the end of episode 111, Promise, where we just left, she had to let go because she was dangling off the side of a metaphorical cliff. Right. You know, she couldn't just dangle there for all of time. She had to let go. This is, she has to let go intentionally because Catra finally pushes her to the point where Catra is verbally and tangibly blaming Adora for every choice that she, Catra, has made in her life. And Adora has never tried to fight back and force Catra to stand on her own feet, ever. But now she has to. She finally says to Catra that your choices are yours and they're not on me. And she's heartbroken. You know, whenever she's angry with Catra, she's also heartbroken.
Yeah, every time.
She's never just angry.
Right.
But she has to choose between Catra and the whole world. And Catra still doesn't want to be saved by her. Catra is still just blaming her for everything. So she has to, if she has to make a choice. She has to consciously choose to let go of Catra.
Yep. And so I did not do as well as you at writing down
That's okay.
episode names, but the episode, whenever Adora goes back to the Fright Zone and Catra gives her her sword back and tells her to leave, and then the next time that they see each other, she looks at her funny and she's like, what? God, I knew you were going to be weird about this. And she's like, what? It's just that you like me. And she gives her like a noogie on the head.
Yeah.
She's like, you like me. There was a parallel between that scene and a scene in Their Perfect Reality where Adora says, you like me, and gives her a noogie. And they're even like in the same like frame of the screen as where they were in the other episode. And that one struck me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Because they can say the same thing in a different context, have it be playful or have it be confrontational. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that is a parallel, for sure. And, you know, you could argue in that scene that Catra gave her the sword and let them go because she really did want Adora to go so that she would stop being shit on by Shadow Weaver.
Right. And the second she got back, Shadow Weaver was like, you're no longer a Force Captain. We don't need you as a Force Captain anymore because Adora's back.
Exactly. Even after everything Catra did as a Force Captain, all her work,
yeah,
you know.
And that's what she says, too. Even after everything that I have done for you, you still want her.
Right. So it's easy to make a case that that's why Catra gave her the sword and said, go, get out of here. So, you know, that could go one way or the other. And that's right after Princess Prom, where there's still just a hot gay mess and nobody knows their ass from their elbow, frankly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, you're absolutely right about that. That is a great callback. And there's tons of parallels, especially in the alternate reality scenario.
Yeah.
Where they could be happy, but they don't know, because they don't know what the world outside is in that place where they could have been happy just being in the Horde.
And also in the alternate reality, it's Adora who tases Catra and not Catra who tases Adora.
I know. Interesting. And, you know, both times they do it for the other one's good in the moment. And they're both sure that that's what they're doing. Yeah. Good times, man. So, according to me, which, you know, it doesn't have to be a fact, this is just my opinion, by the end of the portal, that's the end of Adora's, like, emotional cocoon period, her middle period, where she's struggling with her patterns and her emotional behaviors and trying to break free of patterns based on shared trauma and based on childhood safeguards that were meant to keep themselves and each other alive.
Right.
And she emerges out of that being able to make clear and conscious intentional choices around Catra rather than just reacting all the time. But Catra's not quite there yet. And all of season 4 goes by without them really interacting at all. That's a season that they really need to grow and deal with their shit separately.
Yep.
And then the next episode that we get that's Catradora-centric is Corridors. And that is the end of Catra's middle story, looking back emotional cocoon period. And the beginning of her really moving forward. It starts off with her still playing the same old game with herself and everyone else. That she's not invested, she's not attached, she's still their enemy. She's, you know, on the spaceship with Prime. And Glimmer is their prisoner. And they're sitting at the table, the three of them, and he's trying to figure out what's what these two Etherians on his ship, what their relationship is with the people that he's trying to root out.
Right.
And of course, Glimmer, you know, wears her heart on her sleeve. She doesn't hold anything back. She's clearly very distressed over Adora's fate. And Catra's there smirking and scoffing about how, unlike her, these princesses are so obvious with their feels. And then, of course, Prime is like, oh.
Oh, yeah. I clocked you the instant that you came on this ship.
Yeah. Gaydar. Like, oh, girl, please, you think you're subtle.
Yeah. Elevated heart rate. Dilated pupils.
Also, like, has anyone ever said the words, she means nothing to me? and had it be remotely true. It's like, oh, so you are in love with her then. So I shouldn't murder her horribly in front of you. Okay, got it.
Right. Yeah.
So, and the thing that makes it harder for her, I think, is that she has so much negative self-feeling, specifically because of the way that she was abused by Shadow Weaver for all of her life. And she can't reckon with her feelings for Adora without reckoning with all that negative self-thinking about herself. And that's doubly hard. Adora has a lot of burdens that she puts on herself, and she feels responsible for the whole world, but she doesn't feel bad about herself the way Catra has been made to feel bad about herself her entire life by Shadow Weaver.
Right.
And, Adora has been trying, not succeeding, but trying to protect her from that whole time. So her feelings about Adora are completely tied in with her feelings about herself. Mm-hmm. And that's why her emotional journey is harder.
Yep.
And this is also the episode that we remember the time. This is a sweet story. This doesn't have a heartbreaking conclusion, finally. We remember the time when they were little, that we saw Adora running to find little Catra, who's like hiding behind some crap in the hallway crying, and comforting her and saying, it's okay. I'll tell them that you didn't mean it. I'm going to smooth everything over. We don't know exactly what's the what yet. But she said, you didn't have to hit Lonnie, number one. And, you just have to say you're sorry. And everything will be cool. And we can all be friends again. Right? And for Adora, it's just simple as that. For Catra, it's not just as simple as that.
Nope. She hates hearing, and we can all be friends. No.
Yeah.
She wants Adora as her friend. And everyone else can fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, and she doesn't have the security to believe that Adora can be her friend while still being other people's friends.
Right, exactly.
Where is she supposed to find the emotional trust for that?
Right.
And basically the emotional sum of that is Catra will never say sorry to anyone, ever, 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 and Adora was always going to be her friend no matter what. Mm-hmm. And this was something that really stuck with me and made a deep impression on me because I was frankly so impressed by it. It was not about forgiveness. It's not that I was impressed that Adora was able to forgive Catra for slashing her face. Forgiveness comes easily for some people, maybe not for others. I was impressed with Adora's ability to have just unswayable faith in Catra's friendship, despite how much Catra lashed out at her.
Right.
She never even wondered for a second, is Catra really my friend? Does she really just want me to go fuck off? She just continues to smile and give Catra her love and continue to run after her and say, I'm always going to be your friend.
Yep.
That's impressive.
It's super impressive.
For a small child.
And for some adults.
For many adults also.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I imagine putting myself in baby Adora's shoes in that situation, I wouldn't necessarily be angry at Catra back because she scratched me. I would be sad and insecure. Like, I guess she really doesn't like me anymore. She really doesn't want me around. I guess I'm bothering her now. Right. And I should go away and leave her alone. But Adora never has that thought for 1 second. Yeah. And then Catra has to, live through those memories while she's on the ship alone with Glimmer and Prime. And her last, memory, it's not really a hologram this time, it's just a vision of her memory, is little Adora, laughing with little her in the hallway, looking up at her, saying with all earnestness, I'm always going to be your friend. Mm-hmm. And that's a real turning point for her. Yeah. And that's when she finally decides to save Glimmer in order to save Adora. And Catra finally says she's sorry to Adora as she's teleporting Glimmer into deep space, somewhere roughly near their location. That's good enough, right?
That's right. Because she says, I'm sorry for everything.
Right, right. And I have full confidence that that's the first time Catra has ever said the words, I'm sorry, to anyone.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, now she's fully crossing that line into, I'm not going to let this happen. Adora saved me a million times. I'm going to save her. Right. And she sacrificed herself. To a likely a fate worse than death. Quite literally. Yeah, quite literally a fate worse than death, probably. Mm-hmm. And now her middle journey is also done. And now they are both moving forward into totally uncharted territory in terms of their relationship with each other. They're moving past reactionary interaction that's rooted in the past and rooted in trauma to intentional choices in the present, which is awkward and messy, of course.
Yep.
But it's also adorable.
It is.
My last note for the middle section is moving onward, uncharted territory, and then all caps, newly adultish, emotionally aware gay Catradora.
Yes.
So that's fun. Ooh, do we need a water break? How's everybody doing? It's a lot of Catradora.
Yes. Does anyone need a fan? We're about to get to the hot stuff.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And it's hard not to do this.
We didn't even talk about all of the straddling that there was in the first the first half of the first season.
There's so much straddling.
It's just like every time they interact, Catra is straddling Adora.
Pretty much. Pretty much. And in Remember also, in their fantasy world, there's also plenty of straddling there. And of course, there's all the hand-holding and hand-reaching. That's a major visual metaphor for the two of them. And yeah, I mean, the visuals of this show are so powerful. And, you know, that's why I love graphic novels and comic books, well-written comic books that really grab you, and it's not just about the action. The visuals, together with the words, achieve something that neither one can achieve independently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the visual graphics on this show are incredible.
And I love the little moments when Catra's tail will, like, just glaze Adora's hand.
Yup.
Those are always the best.
Those are great. Like, there's also a moment in the next episode, not in Save the Cat, in the next episode after Save the Cat, which is Taking Control. I'm sure everyone remembers this. The scene when Catra finally gives in and agrees to let Entrapta remove her chip so they won't be hunted down by the Prime ship. She finally gives in, and we see from Adora's point of view, Catra kneeling on the ground with her head down, holding on to Adora's wrist, saying, "Stay with me." She just says stay. And we see her the way Adora sees her, in this position of total vulnerability and supplication.
Mm-hmm. That's a good moment.
It's incredibly beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many incredibly beautiful visual moments, but we don't have time to talk about all of them. Unfortunately, and also talk about the action and the words. So let's talk about Save the Cat.
Yes, let's.
Some people might think it's the most important episode in the whole show. I don't know. It could be. Some people may even have Twitter accounts exclusively devoted to this episode.
Yes,
if you're interested, you could find an account that Meph runs just for fun, just for Save the Cat, at save_the_cat. It's actually kind of hard to find because there's a lot of Twitter accounts with the title Save the Cat.
Yeah. It's a great episode.
It's a fantastic episode. You can never watch Save the Cat too much.
Right.
For me, this was the real turning point in the show where I was like, holy shit, the gay is going to get real. There's no going back with this gay. Yeah. This is a bold force of nature gayness that nobody's putting a lid on. Like, we are all in. And, you know, the exhilaration of this ep cannot be denied.
Yeah.
By anyone. Like, if you didn't stand up or scream or both when watching this episode for the first time, like, get thee to therapy immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. So now all the cards are on the table. Everyone's ready to move forward. Adora's gonna get her girl. God damn it.
Yeah.
And the best friend squad is with her.
Full force.
Let's save some gays in love. And what better way to start fighting the totalitarian regime of terror with some smirky Adora.
Yeah.
Her cocky gay smirk at the very beginning when she gets off the ship and they immediately, like, cuff her. And she is so not concerned. Like, hey, heard Prime was looking for me. Thought it was time.
Yeah.
Thought it was time we were introduced. Like, oh my God. It's so good.
She knew what she was doing.
Oh yeah. She had a plan and she was just all in and she was fearless.
Mm-hmm.
The courageousness of the building, intentional, unbreakable gay love.
Yeah.
We have heard that it saves the universe.
That it does.
So, you know, we're not going to go through every detail, obviously, of this episode. We can just skip ahead to when Adora is talking to Prime, demanding Catra, and Catra's Stepford wife reveal is so horrible for Adora when we see Primified Catra. I don't know if anyone else is old enough to even remember that there was once a bitchin' horror movie in the 70s called Stepford Wives.
Oh, I remember it.
You remember? It's before my time, too. I'm not that old.
Her expression when she sees her. Also, Catra says, "Hello, Adora," instead of, "Hey, Adora."
Yes.
So,
yes,
you know it's not her.
Right. Yep. And that flat, emotionless voice.
Mm-hmm.
Her head has been not shaven, but almost down to a pixie cut. And god damn it, it's hot. But nothing else about this scene is hot. But, you know, the hair looks good. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It looked good before, too. But, you know, the blank eyes, the expressionless voice. It's like if anything could be not Catra, it's an expressionless voice. And the look on Adora's face, as you said, is just so heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And she starts saying all these things that Adora has always feared. And saying them so flat and emotionless is like so much worse than if she was shouting and screaming at Adora. Mm-hmm. You broke my heart, but Prime made it whole again.
It's just the worst.
It's the worst. It's the worst. And Adora is absolutely destroyed. And now she has to fight Pod Catra. Because she has to, because if she doesn't, then she's just going to end up getting beat up by Catra and becoming a prisoner too. So she has to fight, but, you know, the anguish in her eyes during that sequence.
You can tell even just in her fighting style that she's very, like, soft and careful in how she's fighting her because she knows it's non-consensual. This is not a consensual fight.
Right.
This is not a fight that Catra would be having if she wasn't chipped.
That's right. That's right. That's very well put. Because she knows this is non-consensual on Catra's part. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we see a few of those tiny flashes of Catra's real eyes.
Yeah.
And that, you know, gives Adora hope and also anguish that, like, her Catra is still really in there.
Yeah. She just has to find her.
She has to find her. And, you know, the fight keeps going and the chip gets damaged little bit by bit. And then finally they end up on the floor after all the glass explodes. And Catra comes back to herself long enough for them to have a brief conversation. And she says, "Why did you come back? We both know I don't matter." And Adora says, "You matter to me." And they're both crying. Like, this is so core to them being able to move on together.
Yep.
Is that, of course, Catra really needed to say that and really needed to hear Adora say, "You do matter. You matter to me." And then they're both crying, and then Catra says, "You're such an idiot." And Adora says, "Yeah, I know. And there's one last callback to a line that's been repeated from their childhood when Catra says, "Promise?" And Adora says, "Yeah, I promise." Knowing full well that she can't control what's going to happen, but she is determined to make that promise. And they have, you know, another hand reach where they're reaching for each other. And it's, again, so awful and anguished of a hand reach because Catra's hand is shaking so bad. She's fighting to control her own body and mind from outside forces. And it doesn't quite reach before Prime takes her body over again.
Ugh.
And seeing a totalitarian force of evil speaking through your beloved's mouth and using her body, holy shit.
Yeah, I would lose my mind.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who can even imagine how they'd react in that situation? Luckily, things are not that bad yet that we have to worry about that.
Right.
But goddamn. And then eventually, you know, Catra gets zapped by her chip. She falls over the edge, and Adora fucking jumps over the edge after her.
Without a thought.
Without being able to see how far the bottom is or even what's at the bottom. Oh, yeah.
She's all in.
She's all in. And when they're down there, of course, we have some really well done and heartbreaking death rattle breaths from AJ.
Yeah.
Which, like, whew, you know, when all you can do as an actor to express that you're dying is, like, breathe. Yeah, her voice is amazing.
Yeah.
And then Prime thinks he's won because she still doesn't have the sword. She hasn't transformed into She-Ra since she broke the sword. Mm-hmm. And then
she says, "I don't fucking need the sword. I got my girl back, and I'm gonna kick your ass."
This is the first time she transforms into She-Ra without the sword because she manifests the sword
Mm-hmm.
with the power of her righteous gay tears.
Yep.
And we can see, like, she begins to transform as the tears spring out of her eyes.
Yep.
We can see that that's what she's drawing on, is the strength of her love. And it's so awesome.
It is.
Like, not today, Prime. No more Evil Dead lesbian stories for you. Mm-mm. So, and then she literally appears. And, like, I think this is the part that we all get the most transfixed and worked up about, because it's fucking amazing. And there's never been anything like this on TV or film before. She literally transforms and appears as the most iconic, like, lesbian Jesus queer superhero fantasy imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've never seen anything like this before. Literally ever.
Is this when she gets the pants, or does she have the new outfit before
Yeah, this is the new outfit, because this is the first time that she's transformed since she broke the sword. So this is She-Ra 2.0. We don't see the full transformation sequence right at this moment, because ain't nobody got time for that. We'll see it soon again. But right now, you know, we just see her transform in a blaze of glory and magical gay light into She-Ra, you know, the new version of She-Ra.
Mm-hmm.
She maintains her aura of glowing gay righteousness for a while.
The whole time, yeah.
This is like some Captain Marvel shit.
Yeah.
Let's just dwell on this for a minute. What happened in your body and brain when you saw this for the first time?
I mean...
like, there are no words. Like, I know that...
Like, I can feel the feeling, but I don't know how to explain it.
It's beyond the level of words in brains. This is such a primal thing.
Right.
Because we've never seen anything like this before. I know I've said it before. It bears repeating.
I mean, it's monumental.
It's monumental. We have never seen a queer superhero just owning everybody's ass and saving her girl with not even one lick of strain. She is, you know, drawing on the power of the evildoers to be like, no, fuck you. You miscalculated, bitch.
Yep, and she does it all with Catra on her shoulder.
Yeah. Oh my god. And then the scene where she comes out to where Bo and Glimmer are, and she's holding Catra in both of her arms facing front, like, it's this iconic hero saving the damsel image.
Yeah.
But it's She-Ra!
Yeah.
And she's still surrounded by glowing light and her iconic genderqueer sword. And she just saved everything that was important. And they did something that no one else had ever done. And they escaped Prime, which no one else has ever done, apparently, except for Milog. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the next episode, she just walks out into space, again like Captain Marvel, and, like, beats all the shit out of all those spaceships until they're all gone with her sword.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nothing more epic. But before that, she gets to save Catra's life, also with her healing gay magic. And... Do you want to talk about the very end of that episode? How they hug on the floor?
Yeah. I mean, I get emotional.
Yeah. Really? What's wrong with you? You got emotional? Jeez.
I know. What a softie.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, I mean, that, again, is a massive, massive shift, turning point moment, shifting point in their relationship. Because all pretense has fallen away. They're both all in with each other, and there's no denying it. Catra hugs Adora back fully.
Yep.
And she's purring.
Yep.
And they're just on the floor hugging.
And it's the best.
And that's the end of the episode. And it's the best. Does anyone have a kombucha for me right now? Because I am parched. Holy shit. Woo! It's a lot, people. Oh my gosh. And you know, it's really hard to express the intensity of something that's so dependent on the visuals. Those last few scenes with the new She-Ra saving Catra, and she's glowing, that cannot be expressed with words alone. You have to be seeing it to understand the feels. So you've all seen it. You know exactly what we're talking about.
Don't worry, there will be some TikToks.
Oh yeah, I know. But we just have to dwell in that moment, like, for a second, and just, like, breathe it in. Just breathe in all that queerness. Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we fully immersed in our new queer air?
I think so.
I mean, not that it wasn't queer before.
It's just like a thicker queer
it's
now.
It's just triumphant queer air.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all we have left now is the rest of season 5. Not every episode, but we've got Taking Control, which is the next ep, and Shot in the Dark, which is 508, where we meet Milog. And these are the eps where, you know, they're just sort of awkwardly and realistically fumbling their way into, like, how are we going to be with each other now that we're no longer acting out of childhood patterns and reactions.
Yep, they have to figure out their new dynamic.
Yeah, and, you know, it's realistic. Just as Glimmer says to Adora in the next ep, in 506, Adora's mad that Catra's being a brat, and Glimmer's like, this is still Catra, though, right? Like, you expected her to just change into a completely different person overnight?
Right. I have another parallel to bring up with the way that she reacts to Catra. At one point she says, like, she didn't even say thank you. And it made me think of when Willow brings Buffy back. And she's so wrapped up in herself and how she feels and what she thinks Buffy should be feeling without thinking about everything she's going through and processing. And I mean, it's the same for Catra. She just got her mind back.
Yeah.
And so she has a lot to process on top of just the Catra Adora situation.
Yeah.
And Adora's not thinking about that.
Right. That's absolutely right. 100%. Yeah, in this episode, very clearly, and in the next few episodes ahead, you can clearly see that Catra is still working through the immediate trauma in the aftermath of being chipped.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a really good parallel. So I already mentioned about how in the next episode, She-Ra walks into space, does some Captain Marvel shit, and it's awesome. And Catra gets a legit welcome to the family moment when they all sit down on the floor and have dinner together.
I know, I love that scene.
Dinner a la Wrong Hordak.
Yes.
And it's a really nice moment. And then 506 and 508 are, I wouldn't say they're like light and fun episodes, but they're more light and fun than the ending.
Yeah.
You know, there is room for some lightness and some awkwardness, you know, in a realistic way. And, you know, 508 is when we meet Milog. And, of course, there is that fantastic conversation. Actually, before we get to the conversation when we meet Milog, do you remember the moment when they're arguing about, like, whether or not there's a door they're supposed to go through?
Yeah.
And Entrapta says, well, there's supposed to be a door, and Data never lies. And they're arguing about it, and finally Catra's like, okay, fine, you want a door? And she just slashes a door into the space with her claws. She's like, boom, there's your door. And Glimmer and Bo are just like, whoa, what the fuck? And if you look at Adora, and her face is just like completely love-struck, 100%. She has so many little stars and hearts around her eyes.
She's like, that's my girl.
Full blush. Yeah. That is adorable.
Duh.
And then the next thing that's even more adorable is the conversation they have when they first all meet Milog. You know, first we think that Milog is attacking Catra. It's just Catra and Milog. And then everybody else shows up and they're like, whoa, what the fuck? Get away from our friend. And then, of course, Milog gets upset because Catra gets upset. And then Catra is trying to keep cool and get a handle on things. And she says to Adora, in a voice that we have never heard from her before, she says, I'm sorry. I got angry. It's something I'm working on.
Yeah.
And Adora says, you are?
Yeah.
And again, like...
she's so proud.
She has so many hearts.
Yeah.
And then Catra, again, like, she has a reactionary moment where she's like, oh my god, fuck off.
Yeah.
Again, like, she reels it in and she's like, she centers herself. She's like, yes, I am. So can you please not give me a hard time right now? Like, when have they ever had a conversation like that?
Never.
And Adora hears her and she's like, yep, no, do your thing, do your stuff. And she backs off. Like, they have never communicated that well in their lives, I don't think.
Nope. Yep. This is really when Catra starts communicating. This is when we first start seeing her communicate.
So this is a really important, even though roughly we've discussed, well, the beginning part and the middle journey and the end part of the journey, you know, there's always, like, the middle of the beginning and, you know, the beginning of the end. And, like, you know, this is not quite the middle, but this is, like, the beginning of what comes after the middle. You can't just go straight to, oh, so we're good now. We're completely good. Like, there's there's always awkwardness when you're in a transitional period like that of like, we're trying to consciously move out of old patterns. So what do we have instead? If there wasn't an awkward period, then you're not really being earnest and trying to be open if there was no awkward period.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So now, let's have some Queer Love Save the Universe. What do you say?
Let's.
So it's time for the 3-part finale movie, as Meph and I referred to it, which is Failsafe, Heart Part 1 and Heart Part 2. They really are a movie put together.
Right.
Seamlessly.
Just like the first 3.
Exactly. So through these ending 3 episodes broadly, they both have to deal with the fact that Catra is now able to make her own choices in a non-reactionary way to Adora. And she, in fact, has to make her own choices. And again now, she is the only one trying to advocate for Adora not sacrificing herself. She says, it doesn't always have to be you.
Yeah.
What do you want? And all Adora can answer with is, it doesn't matter what I want. I'm the only one who can do it. It's the whole world. I have to. And so that's Catra's answer. If I keep following you, you're going to keep throwing yourself into danger. And in this situation, you're probably going to die.
Right.
I don't have to stand around and watch it. Like, I love you, you know it, but I don't want to watch you die.
Yeah.
And that's legitimate.
Yeah. And I'm sure that she is feeding off of her own insecurities and thinking, well, okay, she's never going to choose me.
Right. There is that.
Which we see later.
Yes. Yeah. And she does say to Milog, I can't remember if it's the end of Failsafe or the beginning. I think it's the beginning of Heart Part 1 when she's running away on Milog's back. And then Milog just stops and be like, what are you doing, man? Come on. Yeah. Go back. And Catra says she doesn't want me. Not like I want her.
I know.
Which, of course, we know is not true.
Yeah.
But it's also reasonable to say, I am making my own choices now. I want to be with you. Do you want to be with me or do you want to go die?
Right.
I can't be with you if you're dead.
Right.
Like that is also reasonable. So that's something that they have to deal with now. But of course, Catra does show up in the end because she can't. Yeah. She can't leave.
Let her go.
If you jump, I jump, Jack.
Yep.
But that scene at the end of Failsafe, after Adora has taken the Failsafe against Catra's wishes, Catra begged her, she said, it doesn't always have to be you. Yeah. Which is very fair. But again, who else can do it right now? All this shit is going down right now. And right now, nobody else can do it.
Yeah.
So by the end of that episode, everybody's sleeping. Milog is sleeping on Adora. Catra gets up. She gets her little backpack. She's like, I gotta go. I can't stay and watch this. And of course, as soon as Catra is gone, Adora wakes up because she has her Catra's missing sense.
Yeah.
And Adora begs her to stay. They have that heartbreaking scene outside their little camp area.
Yeah. I also think that when they get done with that fight, I think that Adora is holding on to the backpack.
She is. She's holding on to it.
I always wondered, what was in that backpack? I always wondered, Catra left with it specifically, but did not actually get to leave with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I never really dwelled on. It's probably just, clothing and supplies.
I'm sure.
But yeah.
But just every time I watch it, I'm like, and she has no backpack now.
Yeah, but that's how she's like, it doesn't matter. I gotta go.
Yeah.
And she has to have the strength to leave. It's like she's trying to leave while she still has the strength. And Adora is left. I know that's such a heartbreaking visual.
Yeah.
Adora on the ground just hugging Catra's
clutching
backpack.
That bag. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and of course it feels good when she lets Shadow Weaver have it. When Shadow Weaver tries to psych her up and be like, oh, you did the right thing. Catra doesn't understand. She's just holding you back. And Dora's like, fuck off. I will never forgive you. You ruin people. This is not about you. I do not want your input. And again, if you missed the first time, fuck off.
Right, exactly. Fucking Shadow Weaver.
Fucking Shadow Weaver, man. And Shadow Weaver is a great character in terms of being a great villain and being great to move the narrative forward. She's a complex bad guy, but in terms of I'm just a person watching the show, I'm going to be like, fucking Shadow Weaver, man. Right. Fuck you. Yeah. You do ruin people.
Yeah.
And though I don't think Shadow Weaver deserves to be shipped with anyone because she does not deserve love. I know people have and do ship her with Castaspella. And while I don't think Shadow Weaver deserves love, Lorraine Toussaint, on the other hand, and Sandra Oh, if they got together,
oh yeah,
I have nothing but good intentions there. Take away Shadow Weaver.
Yeah.
But leave Lorraine Toussaint. She can have Castaspella or Sandra Oh, whichever one she wants. That would be fantastic. But, leaving Shadow Weaver behind because fuck her. Now we're into the real finale. That's when Milog tries to get Catra to go back. Of course, eventually she does, but she doesn't right away. And, Adora tries to go do her thing. Meanwhile, Catra does end up going back for her. She goes back to the camp where no one is there except for Shadow Weaver. Catra also gets her time to say, fuck off, Shadow Weaver.
Yeah.
You are not in control anymore. And she basically forces Shadow Weaver to do her mojo so they can teleport instantly to the Crystal Castle. She's like, I know you have the power. Now you do what I say.
Yeah.
And miraculously, Shadow Weaver does. And that's when they finally get to the turning point where Catra's like, I am not going to go leave you alone. I'm staying with you no matter what.
Yeah.
And so, Adora saved the universe, but Catra saved Adora. Yeah. Adora would not have survived that without Catra. Yeah. And where we end up in the very end, that beautiful sequence that starts with Adora's future fantasy, where she sees her and Catra as chosen family with Glimbo. Yes. And she and Catra are married, and Bo and Glimmer are married.
And it's what? Is it Scorpia's first?
Yes, it's Scorpia's first ball. I know, it's so beautiful.
And Glimmer's trying to brush her hair.
Oh, I know, that's so cute. And they're chasing each other around Adora. It's adorable.
Yes.
It's a beautiful, perfect moment. Of course, Prime thinks he can bust in, even on her fucking fantasies, and tell her how it's going to be. Fuck you, Prime.
Right.
You don't say anymore how it's going to be. Somebody else is going to say now. So in the end, Shadow Weaver does make good in one way. I don't feel that her saving them from the weird First Ones monster redeems her in a way that is like broad, all-encompassing.
Right.
It's one good thing she did in her life.
And I feel like she got what she deserved.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. I am on board with that. And the way she says you're welcome to them with that smile on her face, like, you shouldn't need thanks for doing the right thing for once in your life.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're welcome? Like, yeah, thank you for fucking us up our entire lives.
Yeah, the least you can do is this.
Yeah, exactly. But she does one good thing. Catra and Adora both survive the beast, and they walk back towards the Failsafe, towards the heart, rather, with their arms fully around each other. Everything's on the table now. They're not going anywhere without each other. And then the real climax is the next part, where Adora loses consciousness doing her thing, using the Failsafe, but Catra reaches in to her unconscious mind, because real Catra is really speaking to real Adora, begging her not to give up, telling her she loves her, reaching for her. Again, another hand reach, and Adora is only able to fight hard enough to save herself because Catra is there reaching for her. Just like she was in their very, very first interaction in the Sword Part 1.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Full circle.
Yeah. And then, of course, they get to frolic in a beautiful, euphoric world that is evil-free. And instead of a giant, ugly, invading spaceship, they have a giant space treehouse, which I love that. I love that so much. And I know that they've said, at least Noelle has said, that that wasn't the original plan. The original plan was to just like blow it up and get rid of it. But then one of the storyboard artists suggested it, or just did it to see how it would look. And of course, everyone loved it. And I love that ending with new life, with growth, with nonviolence. Yeah. Is so awesome. Yeah. Ending with flower power.
And we got to see them kiss.
The kiss that saved the goddamn universe. You're welcome. Yep. And then we get to see them with their foreheads together in a beautiful idyllic field, just being in love like two normal gays. Yep. Who no longer have to fight a universe's worth of evil.
Yep. No more immediate danger, just being together.
While they are both struggling to survive the failsafe process, That's when, Catra finally expresses out loud to Adora. She says, this is the big, big, big payoff. Don't you get it? I love you. I always have. So please, just this once, stay.
Yep.
And that's the final handhold.
Yes, those are some very important words and very powerful.
Those are like
fucking the powerful words that do it.
That's the payoff of the entire series. Is Catra being able to just be that open and that raw and throw herself out there for Adora in every way.
Yes. And the way her voice breaks when she says it is just like, ugh.
I know. It's like equal parts knife in the heart and then like putting an extra 1,000 hearts inside your heart.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say growing, your heart just growing like 7 times.
Yes. It's like all the things at once, all the feels in the whole wide universe jammed into your little gay heart at once.
Yep.
I mean, and I vividly remember seeing this for the first time. I mean, and again, it's very visceral. It's not something that even happens in your brain.
Right.
It's such a gut reaction. Like, I remember I just stood up and I like screamed and laughed at the same time. Like, which doesn't really sound possible, but it is. It's only possible when your body is doing it without your consent or control.
Right, yeah. You're on autopilot at that point.
And of course, we were all watching this. Well, unless you have peeps that you're living with to watch this with, we were all watching this alone because it was the beginning of lockdown. Not the very beginning. It was early on in lockdown.
Early on, yeah.
At least in New York. I don't know exactly when each state went into lockdown last year, but it was just the most glorious moment. And, you just feel so connected to everyone who is also watching and having this shared experience, which really does circle very nicely back to episode 0, when I talked a little bit about the power of having queer narratives in media like this, is that it makes you feel seen and included in society in a way that nothing else can. This is not tolerance. This is fucking celebration.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously. This is by and for the gays.
Yeah, there's no subtext.
Yes, it's incredible that, it got through all the approvals needed by studio execs and whomsoever. And of course, we all know that Noelle did the magics and they made it impossible for it not to be seen through because it was too core to the plot. But even all along the way, every little one of those moves forward is incredible. They kept saying yes each step of the way. And to be here where we are and to be like, well, that just happened.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna call/text everyone I know right now so we can all gay scream together, because that's all we can do right now is gay scream.
Yeah.
Like, literally all other functions are shut down. All the reserve power is going straight to gay screaming.
Yeah. Yep. First, there was the initial period of gay screaming, and then there was everyone restarting it all over again immediately.
Well, I cheated a little bit. I started I rewatched season 5 immediately first, because I needed to watch, I couldn't wait for the payoff.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I rewatched season 5 like twice before I went back to the beginning and watched the whole thing again.
Fair.
Yeah. Man. Woo! We made it!
We did it!
We made it through the Catradora journey. Holy fuck. It's so good, Ashley.
It's so good. And it's so, for all of the reasons that you have already stated as to why it's important that we have this on a major streaming service of all places where you can just constantly rewatch it. And it's just like a major step in breaking that societal barrier.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's already happened and happening.
Yeah.
I live in New York City. Obviously, I have a lot of adult gay friends who are raising kids. So, it's fairly normal in my circles for all of my parent friends to have watched it with their kids, and their kids of all ages and of all gender and sexual identities, to, watching this. And for the kids, it's just like, yay, happy ending, good guys win. And they're psyched. And the adults are all sobbing, Like, I can't believe this is happening in my lifetime. Like, it's very different, but it is completely normalizing for younger kids, which is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. It's a huge step for everyone in society by every benchmark.
Yeah, and you know, I'm down here in Tennessee, so it's less common to
I know.
not have pushback from a show like this, but I recommend this to everyone, and many of them have watched it, and so yeah, I'm a huge everyone needs to go watch this, and everyone's kids needs to go watch this.
That's no small feat in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to live amongst a sea of queerdom.
Yeah.
It's a privilege, I know.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a long journey. Let's go back and start at the beginning again.
Okay.
Well, if you like what you heard and you want to join us in more gay screaming, or tell us in agonizing detail every beat of the Catradora journey that we missed or got completely wrong, you can like and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast fix. We always appreciate it when you rate and review us on iTunes, as it makes our gay screaming louder. You can also email us at heyadoracast@gmail.com with your questions, concerns, and conundrums on how to fit more gay screaming into your life, or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at heyadoracast. And if all that is just too much detail to stick in your brain, you can visit our website where all the info lives at heyadora.gay. That's right, I'll fucking say it again. It's heyadora.gay. Thank you so much for joining us, and remember, queer joy is radical.
And queer love saves the universe.